Welcome, everybody, to Growth Hero. We're here today with Kahn. I've known Yosef for many, many years. He's really a leader and a founder in his industry. And we're going to kick it off by letting Yosef introduce himself and tell everybody a little bit about what he does. He has a bunch of different areas where he tackles. Yosef, tell us a little bit about what got you into the industry and what you currently are doing for the industry.
So we'll take a trip down memory lane this morning. It's a nice Sunday morning to do this here. So I started out in a very interesting way. I worked for a college. Spent 7 years working there. Started out in donor relations and things, doing special projects, and then worked out to be director of campus development and planning and development, at the college by the time I left. So, there was a lot going on, building new buildings, donor relations. That's actually how I got started on the whole campus development side of it. It was donor comes, wants to donate a building, you got to go work with an architect, and he wants to see what his name's going to look like. That all progressed that way to the point that I was, learned how to read plans and things like that. Around 10 years ago, I decided that I had enough. The not-for-profit world, while it's the most rewarding and you get to learn so many different things I never would have learned otherwise, because in the not-for-profit world, you're not exclusively to one job, right? And you end up doing a lot of different things. I said I had enough, and I started a company called YK Group Development Consulting, mostly focusing on my development knowledge, planning and approval side of it and things like that. And that has developed over the last, now 10 years in. We rebranded in 2020 because we became much more than development consultants. And our clients sort of pushed us into grow to where we are today. We vision as Vision RE, so that's Vision Real Estate, and that's what RE stands for. But we do, starting after development consulting, it's sort of been a very interesting ride. So we were doing development consulting work, then a client asked us to do diligence on a new property. And we ended up doing diligence work for free to get the consulting work. And I was like, 1 second, why am I giving away half the value up front? And so we started focusing more on due diligence. Client needed underwriting. We brought in someone, we trained them as an underwriter, and we started that side of it. And then we had clients that needed asset management. We started doing stabilized assets, all types of assets, not just development work. And over 10 years, we've done, I think we're up to project number 1988 as a company. We're not the same as we were back in the day. There's stuff that we would have jumped on to do 10 years ago that we wanted to touch today. And it's been a real process here, but now we're still going strong through. It's probably one of the hardest periods for a company like us in the real estate market. And some of the pivots that we did beforehand have really got us to where we are today to allow us to survive and thrive. And it's been an interesting journey. If you told me 10 years ago I'd be where I am today, I would say you're out of your mind. More than that, I was out of my mind to even go out and do what I did. You can never, someone asked me if you want to start a firm similar to ours. I started laughing at them. You can't start a company like this. You have to end up there. So I find that with a lot of companies out there that we deal with, we deal with, let's say, owner-occupied projects where they started out as a manufacturer, then they needed to buy buildings. And as I told one of my clients, the famous story, the Kahn family, is they started out in the candy business. But then the candy business needed buildings where to make the candies. They started buying properties. And they're out of the candy business for a while already, but they're making a lot of money in the real estate. I told one of my clients, you're in this industry right now, we're constantly buying the buildings with you because every building he buys is for himself. But half of them he never moved into. So
I want to stop you for a second.
Real estate, right? Because he's outgrowing his existing 80,000 square feet that he has now.
I want to stop you for a second. You mentioned that your growth came about where you basically were forced to open up different paths. And this is a common thing that I find. I think it's really just different personalities of people. Some people like to go wide and some people like to go deep. What's your philosophy on that? Do you just...
It wasn't really... I'll take a step back, right? We didn't have a choice. You couldn't do our work, right? What we realized very quickly in this industry is that people were just doing development work and not actually doing math if it works. So you have to do the math. So I was stuck doing that math. I couldn't be spending my day creating spreadsheets. So I needed someone to do that. It wasn't that we were looking to do underwriting. I needed that to do my job, right? So if I'm going for a pilot to New Jersey, I needed underwriting. It has to make sense.
But would you recommend to people to go wide and spread yourself a little thinner so you could do different things? Is that a good strategy? Or would you recommend in general going deep? And if you're forced to, obviously you have to do what you got to do.
So we went through a little bit of the last 2 years, a little bit of upheaval. And one of the things that we realized is that each division has to stand on its own. Right? And if it can't stand on its own, goodbye. So for example, like development consulting work, we toned that down a lot and we're not focused as much on it because it's so seasonal and it's so up and down, you can't really have the divisions focus on stand on its own all the time. Right? So there are times when, let's say post-COVID, when it was busy and then it slowed down, like right now it's picking back up, we outsource some of that work in that. today versus doing it all in-house. We have people who used to work for us, who have time, this and that. We ask them, can you take on this, can you take on that, and come in for project by project. But what we realized also along the way is that each division, like our underwriting department, has to stand on its own, has to have its own metrics, and has to have its own profit share. And we'll share with our employees in that department, but it's its own department. Now, I can't do my asset management division without the underwriting. I need their help in that. Right? I can't do a loan mile without my underwriting. I can't do a lot of the work that we do without that. So you need those.
Did you wait till you had the department set up before you went into it, or you're more of the style of the guy you jump into it and you figure it out, fix the plane while it's in the air?
A lot of things like that, but usually it's only because we had such a demand for that work. If I'm wasting half my day on underwriting and doing Excel sheets, I'm like, heck this. So when you realize that your team is not doing what they should be doing and doing other people's work, then you realize, okay, I need someone who's doing that type of work. Other departments, let's just say our asset management division, that a client came to us and said, we did the whole due diligence on the project for him. It was a little bit of a unique purchase for him. He's like, can you take on the asset management as well? You know the property just as well as I do. I raise the money, I'm doing the strategy, but I want someone to do the asset management. I'm not interested in hiring a whole team. You do it for me. And we started our asset management division that way. It has evolved, but we now have $700 million in assets under management. So you can't. We had it both ways. We had it where our clients demanded it. We had it where it just coming too much of my time. It goes both ways. And there are advantages to having projects to sustain in our underwriting team that have nothing to do with it.
But you're really waiting for the demand to hit you to scramble, then to put it up. You're not you're not strategically thinking, okay, this is the next area I want to go into. Let's hustle and make it.
Our asset management division was very, very focused more on like helping people who aren't in real estate with real estate needs and things like that. Right? So like the first deal we did there, the first few deals that we did in the asset management division were actually hotels. And just neatly worked out is that we had clients that were buying things that weren't per se what they do on a normal basis. They fell into a good deal. They wanted help with it or things like that. Yeah, industrial deal similar, but that wasn't how we were doing it. What we realized in 2021 was that people were buying assets and were having issues with the assets they bought, unless they bought the family or other things, and needed assistance and needed advisory work and things like that. So we basically took one of our top due diligence guys and said, okay, we're moving you over to asset management. All right.
But there was a lot of people in this space before. What made you be able to be successful in the space? What advice would you give somebody who's in a business looking to scale it up, make it, or just starting out a business? What advice would you give them?
So I think the biggest advice is you got to focus on what you're good at, and let everyone else deal with everything else. Billing is not for me. Proposal is not for me. I have a person that takes care of that whole side of the business. All right. So if you call me up and ask me for a discount or ask me what we charge for certain services, I don't know that. All right. So like, which helps us and hurts us also. But like, we'll have clients that calls us up for like a project. Like, how much you charge for this? I don't know.
Separate church and state.
It's not only church and state, but like you have to know what you're good at and what you're not. Right. So like, I'm speaking on a panel tomorrow, and we had a pre-call for it, and we were talking about like different negotiating skills. Right? It's all about a loan modification. I'm a horrible negotiator. Right? Ask my clients, they all take advantage of me sometimes, right? But at the end of the day, it's not so much about negotiation, it's about trust, it's about other things involved in it also.
Right. And my guess is your clients might like the fact that you're not this smooth negotiator, that you're somebody that they could have a level conversation with and feel that you're in their corner. I'm sure that's helped you in some ways.
It's very helpful in some ways, but at the end of the day, I'm in a business where I got to build my clients. So what I done with that is I basically put one person in my office, and it's their responsibility.
Like a good cop, bad cop.
It's not a good cop, bad cop. You call me up and ask me for this, I'm like, I tell you to call him.
Right.
I'm not going to involve. And the clients eventually understand it and appreciate it. They don't like it. They much rather deal with me, and I'm just like, no, I'm not doing it. Because at the end of the day, you can't do everything. So know what you're good at, know what you're not.
That's the amazing thing about Hasidim. Day one, they open up their shop, they hire a secretary. I should be answering the phones. They already recognize that. They're going to focus on what they're good at. Litfish, you have these multi-million-dollar companies, and the guy's still doing 30 jobs. So I find that sometimes it's a personality of like culture, of how quickly you're comfortable, passing on what you're not good at to other people and hiring other people, and how quickly, you're willing to do the work you don't want to do or you're not good at.
But we also sometimes overhire, because I told this when I first started my company. I told my first employee, anything that you're going to do, I can do myself. Because I would commit suicide first.
Well, that's the only way you can manage it, really, is if you at least know how to do it.
Correct. You have to know how to do it. It has gotten easier with AI. So like, I don't have to know every formula. I can just ask AI to give me the formula. In Excel.
That is interesting. Are you finding AI being accurate enough for you to be able to use?
Yes and no. Depends on what I'm looking for. Well, I would have had someone when I first started. The first time I think I met you, I was using someone to ghostwrite my LinkedIn post. Now I'll write the post how I want to write it in the AI, and then AI will spit it out, and I'll just edit it and put it up. So in that sense, that's the big difference in I have a meeting with someone today. He needs to write a formal letter to a government agency. I told him, you can come in here, when we sit down with the NAI, we'll spend 20 minutes just pulling everything out of your brain. We'll hit what do you call? We'll get a printout, and then we'll go through that, and we'll take that away instead of writing from scratch. Right now, there's a major strategy that has to go into this. How I want to say some things. Yes, the reason why he's coming and paying me my hourly rates to sit here with him on Sunday morning.
So that's a great example. AI isn't going to replace people as much as make the people who do it, could do it in a much easier,
yes
faster
and no.
way.
What do you mean? I replace my ghostwriter?
True.
All right. So if AI is going to replace the person that AI is going to replace is that bottom person. Look at it. Let's say, we tour a lot of properties. Right? A lot of times I'll go and I'll find like historical artifact. Right. So you'll see from the 1980s in an old building, the person had a typewriter. You see a typewriter, or like I went into an old bank and I found the machine had the codex checks. No one's doing that anymore. So think about it this way: it's like what happened to that person at the bank, or it's like you're driving down the highway. There's no one to pay tolls to anymore, right? What happened to all those people?
No, for sure. Industries evolve. There's no question about it.
Technology AI is going to involve industries that were basically, especially like in our industry, we get a lot of data and things like that. You can actually, like, I had to go I'm going on a 10-property tour for 2 days this week, making a actual, schedule and a route.
But I'm surprised you still have to go down. You can't use pictures and AI. Saying you still have to go down to site.
Yeah, 100%. Right, but I can't say that actually plan a route and things like that, and tell me how it's going to take between all those properties. 20 years ago, that would have been a two-day job.
Well, so what would you tell somebody who's starting a business in this field where AI is so prevalent? Is it something that you have to find a business that AI won't replace, or is it like every business will have a room for somebody to use the AI to be able to do it?
No, but I think AI is going to replace the bottom feeder secretary. Right, so I don't need a secretary to go and make my schedule anymore. You don't need a secretary to go and do your scheduling. These are all types of things that you would have had staff doing. I remember, just from my old job going back 15 years ago, there's a lot of things that we were doing then that just would not happen today. Just putting together a meeting, right, would have been was a full week ordeal. Today, you'd schedule a Zoom time, that'd be the end of it, right? So now all that travel time, things like that. But then again, to walk a property, when you want me to walk a property, or you want my staff to walk a property, you can't do that, AI. They're not going to see a robot's not walking into every single apartment, right? We have crews that walk into apartments every single unit. Or on an industrial property, a robot's not going to see the fact that there's cracks in the foundation and this that. You got to walk the property, you got to see it. So those type of work, it's just gonna replace. It's much more of the office task. Just imagine what it was like to go and write a memo 50 years ago, and you made a typo and you have to rewrite the whole memo from scratch. All right. So that amount of secretarial work is no longer exists. Yeah. Right. So the same thing with AI. It's just, it doesn't take away. You can't tell AI, "Okay, I have this problem. Give me a solution." Right.
What has been for you? What has been for you the biggest success that has allowed you to scale and to grow, to be able to find new clients? Like, what would you say was your aha moment that allowed you to grow and allowed you to scale?
I never had that aha moment. It was more of like, it's just been grit. You just got to keep on moving, right? And I'll say this honestly, there are plenty. Last week, right, I didn't want to come to the office. Why? Most of the work we're doing today, we don't even enjoy. Right? When you're dealing with an upside down property and the guy's coming to you for help, it's like, it's such a drag, right? And like, if you asked me today, would I ever get involved in such things, 2 years ago, like when we started this whole thing, there's no enjoyment, right? You can't have, but then again, there's a massive need for it, and like, we're there to help people.
Are you finding that you're not doing outbound sales? You're just letting the people come and helping the people that are coming? Is that what you're?
I'm finding that outbound sales only works, right? You can't get outbound sales on a one-on-one basis, right? And especially the clients that we want today, you're not getting that as outbound sales, right? We actually are pivoting to the point that we can do outbound sales, but the inbound sales has to be your number one thing until you get to the point that outbound sales can work.
And how do you generate those inbound sales? How do you generate the inbound sales?
It's word of mouth, LinkedIn, events, things like that. That's the only way to do it.
Have you found LinkedIn generates for you?
LinkedIn does generate a lot for us. A few WhatsApp, choice WhatsApp chats that we're on generate a lot for us as well. But it's more of, you have to put time and effort into it. Right? There are times I say I have no energy for LinkedIn. I know I have to do more and more of it, but it's just like, there's so much going on. We're so overwhelmed. Like, how do you put time to it? So you have to be both sides of it. We finally have hit the point where we're ready to start thinking about having an outbound salesperson, and that's only because we started to work with some institutional lenders. And for that, you really need it. But I can only get those jobs if I have 10 years experience. So had I hired someone 3 years ago for that job, the guy would never have been successful. That's really the hard part of like most industries is. And I see this with a lot of guys. Outbound sales only works once you hit. You can't start outbound sales day one. Once you develop yourself, you can. And then that becomes a whole struggle. How do you grow with it?
Got it. So really in the beginning, you're growing because you're taking care of people, you're getting referrals, word of mouth, you're servicing your network in your community.
Correct.
And then I see you go on LinkedIn, you do well from these rants, calling out the industry, making trouble. That's a good strategy for you.
Down a little bit, yeah. But you know what? Someone had to do it.
True, but that positioned you. That gave you a voice.
And it has to be authentic. You can't go and do that unless you actually preach what he called. Right? So my client who reads that knows that, okay, when he calls me up, he's getting that same rant. It's not just that I'm ranting about it on LinkedIn and I'm what he calling it, and I'm willing to take that position. I'm saying I'm preaching what I'm saying. You have to have that authenticity, but it also helps you in a way because, like, I was on the phone with a lender for a client, and he's like to me, if I don't do this for you, you can go write a post about me? And I told him, well, maybe. It was like, that's really the upside and downside of it is that you have to really be willing to, I find the guys who are authentic, those are the guys who win on it. The guys who aren't authentic on it, it's just like, it doesn't work.
And in terms of the culture of your business, how do you maintain a good culture? So that's such a hard thing.
Possible. We try. It's very hard because especially what we're doing with very demanding clients and things like that, it's almost impossible. And then you have your slow times, this and that. Culture is, I used to be like a massive believer in it and this and that. And then what I came to realize is, yes, you can spend money on culture or you can spend money on your employees. Just invest back into your employees. It gets you the best culture. It's really what it's all about. I think that's one of the lessons that I've learned is that it's, people think it's about giving the cheesecake or buying them this and buying them that. It's buying the letters is very important. Buying them a note. And then offering them what they really need to do the job is much more important. If you want to go bribe your employees by giving them lunch every day versus and not giving the tools to complete their job versus giving the tools to complete the job, not buying lunch, giving the tools to complete the job. That's what I found very much is very important. And culture. People think that it's like, oh, the boss thinks so giving. The best way to be giving is write a bigger check though. Or give them an opportunity to make more money.
Right? That's ultimately what they want, right? That's what they're looking for. Today, it costs so much money to live that everyone's just looking for some way of squeezing by.
I felt bad, my wife's boss sent out the, cheesecakes for shoes. Like, you know what? And so I'm going to make an order for some of my staff and something. It didn't come. The store messed up the whole thing, right? And like, after I'm like, there was $700. I'm like, whatever it was, like, what for, right? And it's important to know that, like, what's important. Yes, people appreciate gifts and people appreciate being what he called, but they also appreciate a $5,000 bonus just as much, right? Or opportunity to make more money. So that's how we changed our culture here. Is that we basically told our employees, we're tying in your department here.
Right. So that's so powerful because it gives them a sense of responsibility and it gives them a career path of where they could stay with you and still make the money.
So that's what's more important. I think that like culture, if you have a 200-person team, culture is very important. But if you're a 12, 10, 8-person team, culture is important, payroll's important. So if you have staff that you've never seen, let's just say for argument's sake, you're a huge medical biller, right? And you have 200 people that never ever met the CEO. Culture there is very important. You have to feel that they have everyone's back, that we're here for you, da da da. If you're an 8 to 10-person team, culture is not as important as giving back to your employees and things like that.
On that note, do you find that you need lots of layers of management when you have a small team, or as long as you could hold on to it, it's enough?
We don't have that many layers of management here. Everyone has their own department. Myself and our COO are the people in between. Is what it is. It's not.
So you wouldn't recommend the layers of management. You're more of a fan of keeping things flat.
Layers of management work when you get to have many departments and things like that. It just, what is the manager doing? I worked in a company.
People have project managers stuck in between.
Yeah, you have that, but like we used to have a lot of staff like that, and we got rid of them. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth the salaries, and they always want to grow the salaries. It's just not worth it.
To me, it's not about the salary so much as they're out of touch sometimes on the project because they're just stuck in the middle.
So like, I remember in my old job working at the college, they had a full-time person whose job was dealing with PTO, with all the employees. And I was like, that's retarded. It's a salary of a person who's probably making, 12 years ago, $50,000, $60,000 a year just dealing with employees PTO. Like, there was probably, 75 to maybe 85 full-time employees. And they had a person whose job was dealing with PTO. And I was just like, that's retarded. We pay our employees flat salaries. I've done that since day one. Basically, no one's hourly. Why? Like, I don't be busy with it. Yes, if I had 200 employees, I would go back to an hourly system. Right? That makes sense. But like, I was like, why would I want to be busy calculating your hours, this, that? It doesn't work. Waste my time. I know what you're saying. I'd rather just pay you a salary. We were going up against, I remember, we were going up against another company to hire an employee. The person, it was an entry level job. The person came back, they're offering me, I don't remember the numbers, let's say $20 an hour. All right, entry level job. And we're like, and you're offering me salary, and it's only, let's just say it comes out to being, take 52 weeks, divided by 37 and a half, comes out to being $18. I'm like, if you could do that math, and you haven't done the math, you're not getting, you don't have PTO, I don't want to hire you. If you can't realize that you're going to end up making more money by me because of the whole time off and then how you have to clock in, if you come 5 minutes late, the docket from your salary and things like that, if you can't do that math, you're not smart enough to work, right? So that was like, that was like a light bulb moment.
Being in the real estate industry where things are moving so fast and the way things are going, where do you see the future of real estate going now that the
Now that
rates are the way they are?
the place collapsed. There was a window where you can get in there for nothing. Had no experience, you just get in there, work for a guy for a year, and go out and buy your own stuff, things like that. That's all. It's getting to be it's going to be much more regulated. It's going to get, a lot of the loopholes are going to get lost from now and things like that. I think that, it has to go back to where it was 20 years ago, where this was a long-term play, not a get rich quick. The problem is that we lived through a window where you get rich quick. So you bought something in 2017, sold in 2021, made a killing. Well, you did it right, didn't do it right. These are driving me crazy. You have guys who totally screwed up deals and still made money. The music has stopped. That, in a sense, what do you call it? It's always going to be around. It's always like people ask me when they first banned, big brokerage shop, are brokers dead? I started laughing. I'm like, there always will be brokers until end of time. Right? It's a business. Right? It's necessary. There are deals that can't get done without it. Do you need a broker to do a simple little, deal? No. Right? Guys are sophisticated enough to buy a 250-unit property, who's probably go direct and get the same deal. Or shop it around directly, have someone shop around. They don't need to pay a broker a crazy commission. But if you're building a huge tower and you got to put together 5 layers of financing, of course you need a broker. So it's just like any other industry. It's going to evolve. It's going to change. And we see that happening on a daily basis where I have clients that are now going direct for certain deals, not direct for other deals, and all these different things for that reason. All right.
But you probably need a lot bigger, deeper pockets to be able to handle those low times or the times where you can't charge the rents you need to charge to sit it out until you can wait till you can make your money. So
correct.
That limits a lot of people who don't have those pockets.
Yeah. So it's also like, yes and no, because then again, the banks, I plan this all day offer me to buy properties for $1. I'm like, but how am I supposed to operate them? I don't want to take it back.
The rents aren't there.
The REO, I can't pay the mortgage. What am I getting? You can offer me to buy out the GP and probably take on $1 billion of debt in the next 6 months.
Wow.
And buy a crazy amount of apartments, but how am I paying the bills? The properties don't pay the bills today. How is it going to pay just what? I'm good, but I'm not that good. Right? I can't create magic. So that's sort of like you have that both sides of it. So you have opportunities like that today.
So what's going to happen? You think the rents will have to come? The rents will have to go up, or you think the buildings will have to go down in price? Like what do you think?
All of above. That's the one thing that people don't realize, and that's where we're very good at what we do. Is there's no one solution fits all. All right. So just like going in that sense of it, when a banker when a guy comes to me and says, "I have this property, it's upside down," what do I do? Right. Without walking the property, I can't help him. Without having my underwriting team, my asset management team get involved in it, I can't help them. Once I get all those pieces involved, I can figure out a solution. And it's not the same solution every time.
So you're really getting very creative.
Right, but that's the business, right? That's exactly what the business is. You have to get creative. Each deal is different, and each one needs a different solution. You can't take from one to the other. Then again, when we advise banks, and we do that now, we're trying to take the solutions that worked on the GP side and move it up to the lender side. And the same way, all the ways, backwards and forwards. So that's really A to B to C, how we've, grown and had that aha moment in the business.
But if you have to talk to somebody trying to get into real estate now, where is the opportunity for the new guy coming in? Or is there maybe there's no opportunity?
I'll tell you what, I gave this course, we gave a 5-week course, we're giving back this year, we're doing 10 classes for 10 years. And I told people like this, and I say this to people all the time. I have people come and ask me this question, I can't say daily, but let's just say weekly, monthly basis. Where do I start? Real estate is endless. You go on CoStar, there's over 1 million properties across America. You go, there's so many different types of real estate, from like a single family house to 4-family to, garden style complex to a tower to hotels to industrial to multifamily, to office to flex to self-storage. These are all types of real estate. All right. I always tell people, you got to do 2 things. You got to figure out what gets you out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and pick an area. All right. There are deals to be bought in every single market. Go pick an area that you want to focus on Go learn the area and go start there. What gets you? What talks to you, and where do you want to focus?
So you believe there's opportunity. It's just a matter of doing the legwork.
There's never a time, even in 2009, there's always were opportunities in real estate. And every business is that way. The question is, can you get out of bed and do it? Can you execute? And can you find the opportunity that talks to you and make you work hard for it?
Are there grants or incentives the government's trying to push people? Is there anything that's worth looking into more than something else?
We've done a lot of work with government grants. We've gotten them from clients, is that you can't base your business based on government grants. Right? Because what I always tell people is that when you deal with the government, politics is local. It's a thing that most people don't understand. I had a guy come to me. He's thinking of buying a hotel that's in foreclosure right now in a town. He owns 3 properties in that town. He has over 1,000 units. We're not talking about a major town. Have you ever spoken to the mayor? No. Have you ever given a political donation in town? No. So if I own 1,000 units and I don't have any violations, I'm like, the mayor's not going to talk to you. You didn't understand that politics is local and you don't have a relationship because you are afraid of City Hall. You never built a relationship. So now when you want to do this deal, no one's going to talk to you. And what people don't realize is that government grants or government programs come and go. So you can't base your entire business on it. If you have a plan that you're doing, like we're working right now on historical tax credits or somebody. Yes, that's great. But he's doing the deal either way. The question is if we're going to make this as part of the
cherry.
You can't base your business just solely on, I want to do this because government grants and things like that. It doesn't work because government grants come and go. Look at, Elon Musk and Trump fighting now about the solar and all those things, right? I made a lot of money brokering a solar deal back in 2020. Lily fell in my lap. She'd never been there. And whatever it was, right? That became very valuable to people because after the Inflation Reduction Act and all those grants and all that, everyone made money. And I'm laughing about it, but now they're trying to take it out of the bill and bleed it. If you built your whole business based on just the Inflation Reduction Act and those grants, what are you doing tomorrow? So that's why you can't, if you were in New York City, people, they got killed in the rent regulated world. If you only did rent regulated apartments in New York City, you had no hedge, you're dead. If you had other things going on, you could survive. So that's what we're seeing, always in real estate as well. You have to stick to what you know, but you can't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, so you have to diversify to future-proof yourself in every industry.
Is there any industry, you do your marketing, right? And you have your online things, this, that. If you only did one of those avenues, do you survive?
No. And I see with my clients, some guy tells me when the pizza store goes up, the catering goes down. Like, they need to have the balance.
You have to be, you can't be all your eggs in one basket. You have to have the balance. It's the only way to survive in business. The diligence, there were times in the last 2 years, it was just very, very slow.
Would you say that the business has stayed the same? Right, or in my business, I would say the business changes every 6 months. Today, right now, we're doing heavy.
Business changes every 3.
Yeah. So right now, it's AI has become the new SEO, and there's like a land grab. The whole thing is crazy now. But it seems like certain industries just change so fast. I guess real estate is one of them.
It does and it doesn't. It's still bricks and mortar. The lending side of it, the rates, that change, right? But the actual bricks and operating don't. That's the biggest problem. People don't understand that. You still got to fix your toilets. Problem is you don't have money to pay the bill to fix it. That's the story. So it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving. But then again, the actual physical stuff, is and isn't as well. Right? So the bricks aren't
before we sign off,
to fault the building.
If you had to talk to a business owner and he's looking to grow, he's looking to scale, what advice would you give him of where to dig, where to work, what to do to hit the next level, to grow, even in the economy's not doing well, but there's always room to grow?
What can you scale that doesn't require your personal time? It's only X amount of hours in a day. If you have a part of a business that you can scale, go scale it. It doesn't need you. Put your focus in scaling it instead of doing the work.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people get caught up with that, being the front man, being the guy who has to have his hands on everything, as opposed to building an infrastructure where other people could do work and they can make money. So I think that's a great piece of advice. Yeah, I see that with the creative industry.
I was talking to a friend of mine on Shabbos at a Kiddush, and he's like, we're discussing someone else, the guy at the Kiddush, how he's struggling, with what do you call it? He said the biggest problem is he's very good at what he does, but he can only make money with his own hands.
And he can't sell it because it's him.
Huh?
And he can't sell because it's him.
Well, he can, but the point is that he's only making money with his own hands. Versus other industries where he happens to be in what he does and is in construction. It usually is a 1 or 2 person company. Right? The problem is how much money can you make like that? What can you get for an hour showing up? $300, $400. Even when we charge $500 an hour for my time, it's a losing money proposition. Unless I'm doing legal work, which we do, the lawyers, it's a losing money proposition. Yes, when I sit down, I'm only wise to work on the legal side, and we advise attorneys, and we're involved in a lot of that stuff, because I have people underneath me who are doing, I'm I'm telling them what I need done, and I'm reviewing it, and I'm charging $200 an hour for that, and I'm not paying them $200 an hour. But if it was just if you came through the project that only needed me, and you're gonna offer me $500 an hour, not really worth it.
I'm seeing that with restaurants, with a lot of other businesses. It used to be that you could make money off of one small little thing, and now you have to be much bigger. You have to have a lot more touch points. You need a lot more money to live also. So you just need to be doing a lot more volume of everything. It used to be where the world was smaller and you could get bigger margins for things. Today, where the world is so big, there's more competition. You need to
I don't know
be
if it's that.
operating on a
I
higher
think it's just
level.
I think they're making the wrong math equation. Very simply, if I'm going to bill $500 an hour for my time, right? What can I bill in a day? 4 or 5 grand a day, tops. Which sounds like crazy numbers. The thing is that once you realize that you end up spending time on so many as a business owner on so many other things that aren't billable, right? I can't bill meeting my accountant. I can't bill for the time that I took to new clients. So it really comes down to that if I'm focusing on a project that's billable hourly, how many hours am I really getting in a day? Max is 4 to 5.
Yeah. So I did the math, and we
And then
found
the
thirty
problem is that
percent
doesn't
gets
work.
lost. 30% gets lost on just stuff.
As a business owner, yeah. As an employee, maybe not, but as a business owner, for sure, it gets lost in that. And then,
I did the math on a department head.
all right, but I'm talking about like as a guy who owns a business, it's probably closer to 50% of your day.
Yeah, right.
So
Makes
50%
sense.
of your day becomes not billable. So you're getting at most $2,100 a day for that. If I go to a property, walk in the door, I'm charging $2,100 plus this other work that we're billing for on that property as well that other staff members do. So yes, if I have work from an attorney that's giving us, we just did a huge project for a major law firm. I had two employees that we were billing at one at $300 an hour, one at 175, and there was a margin there. So any of my time that I spend on it, right, I'm getting a much higher margin of return. So then it's worth it. But if I'm not doing that, someone told me there's a basic rule, and I find this as being true. In a billable business such as ours, 40% can only go to labor because 20% has to go to admin, 10% goes to sales, 10% goes to project management. Now I'm at 80%, 20% is profit. If you're going to spend, if let's just say we charge for a project $10,000, if I spend more than $4,000 in labor, I lost money. Right? There goes my profit margin.
Right, that's what they say. You have to do at least 2x, 3x labor.
Right. So, and we're in a business that is only labor. Right. When you're a consultant and you're billing for it, so I wouldn't say that. 75% of what we do is labor based. Oh yeah, when we have stuff that we do that's flat rate, walking apartments and things like that. That's not labor based. It is labor, but it's a different
More value
calculation.
based. Yeah.
But that's the thing. You can't be more than 40% of your cost in labor ever.
Right. People don't understand that. People look at you and are like, "Why are you charging so much?" They don't understand what a labor is.
And you're paying your staff for downtime also.
100%. Yontif, Chalmaid, and just internal collaborations, which doesn't get built. Yeah.
For example, like we have a big thing that we work holidays, but we work holidays. We don't work holidays.
Right, so we do the same.
I'll give you an end of the story here, bringing up the Chalamoid here. Rabbi Ari Marber calls me up. It's like, right after Purim, he's like, I have a question for you. I know this is one of your big things, David, about a client of ours who gives us a chaimish, 20% of his income gives away to charity. He told me about this Talmud of his. And he says to me, the problem is right now is he has a loan with a lender, and he has a PG on it, personal guarantee. And the loan is underwater. And he just closed the deal, and he wants to give tzedakah. And his partner told him, you can't give the charity because we might need the money to pay off this personal guarantee. He asked me, what's the chance of them collecting the personal guarantee so he can tell them what to do with their charity money? He asked me the wrong question. The question is, how do I get them off the PG? How do I get them out of the situation? It costs money, but it's going to be much less than anything. All right? He goes, fine. He makes the introduction. I speak to them. Great. Fine. Tell them, here, there's a guy, Mr. So-and-so. You can work with him. I have to, let's get the other conference call. Put the other conference call, and he's like to them, okay, I need visionary to go and figure out what's really going on with the property. Give him a few dollars, and then then I can go and I'll do my magic. Fine. They go to me, do I really need this guy? They're not this guy. Tell me this. If I go in there, I'm not the world's greatest negotiator. It's going to cost you X dollars. He goes in there, it's going to cost you probably 40% of what I'm going to get. Like, you really believe it? I'm like, yeah. So I went and did the work, no problem. I got a call. I submitted the whole thing to the bank, showing them what's going on with the property. We had a call with them before Passover. Comes Chalamoid, I'm not hearing anything. It was very time sensitive. There's a whole thing going on in the industry, this and that. We had paperwork that had to be filed, and I didn't hear anything. And Margaret called me up with a different question. I was about to ask him, is it done of it? Can I call this bank? And so, you know what? I'm on vacation with my family. No, not. Okay. Monday morning, right after Passover, I got a phone call that the CEO of the bank and his entire team are going to be in the property Tuesday morning. I scrambled, got a flight, and remember, you come back from Yom Tov, you didn't work for, there's so much work going on. Fine. Get there, meet them there, explain the whole thing to them, like rolling eyes at me, personal guarantees, All right, these guys go and retain so-and-so. We got out of it for $2.5 million when the bank's going to take like $20 million. Okay. I was discussing with them at Marburg afterwards. They explained to me like these guys had to get to Marburg. They're actually Talmidim in Tarvadas or Reisman. And they asked Reisman, they didn't like what was going on in the neighborhood with certain things. Should we move out, this and that? I said, I think you should stay. You should ask Marburg to come give a share in your neighborhood once a week. And they did that. And from that, and of course they gave so much nicer, and there was so much to give them Chaimish, they took this thing which has been keeping them up for nights and nights on end, and they were the happiest people to write the check. Right? And they were able to move on to us. So, you gotta do the right thing. You gotta do all those things. But the main point is that you gotta stay focused and see what you can do for people and go from there.
Okay, amazing. If anybody wanted to reach out to you to use your services or to...
It's probably the easiest way, or 732-597-2046 is our office phone number. Yeah, we do work. We've done work, I think, now in 40 states across the country.
Thank you so much for your time. Pleasure having you on.